And of course there are the ever-popular Whirlwind builds as well. But for this guide, we wanted to take advantage of one of the Barbarian's most unique characteristics by utilizing their sizable array of weapons. Here's how to make a Walking Arsenal Barbarian build in Diablo. Because Barbarians can carry 4 weapons at once, they have a unique way to gain bonus effects in battle by purposefully changing between their various weapon types as much as possible. The main skill requirements for the Walking Arsenal passive ability require you to have 3 or more different attacks on your skill bar so that you can swap between dedicated weapon types at will in order to activate a damage bonus. You can also easily activate this damage bonus by using the Iron Maelstrom ultimate attack, which quickly cycles through all 3 weapon types with a flurry of powerful strikes. Because this ability is all about purposefully rotating different weapons through your attacks, this is quite an active playstyle that requires you to pay attention to which of your buffs are active, when the best time to use certain attacks is, and to make sure you have your various abilities available to you as much as possible. This is great if you prefer a build that relies on your entire toolkit rather than 1 or 2 singularly powerful abilities. There aren't too many nodes on the skill tree that directly boost your Walking Arsenal passive, so this build's strength lies in its customizability and in finding the right legendary aspects for your gear. In terms of customization, because there are so many different attack skills available to you, you can swap different ones in and out to suit your preferences. With 4 slots taken up by attacks, that leaves 2 slots open for you to equip movement and defensive abilities as well, which can make your build balanced with various stun and survivability skills. We'll finish the video by showing you our complete skill tree node by node, but for now, let's get into the specifics. The skills that we settled on using were Lunging Strike, Upheaval, Iron Skin, Kick, Deathblow, and Iron Maelstrom. As we mentioned, you need to have at least 3 attacks, with each of them assigned to a different weapon class in order to activate the Walking Arsenal key passive, which gives you a 10% damage bonus for 6 seconds for each different weapon type used. This 10% stacks multiple times as you use different weapon types, and if you have all 3 weapon type bonuses active at once, you gain an additional 15% damage bonus for a total 45% damage increase. Keeping this bonus active is the lifeblood of this build. While we recommend equipping 1 basic attack, 1 core attack, and 1 weapon mastery attack, you could technically run multiple core abilities if you want most of your attacks to hit a bit harder. But you will run into fury generation issues by using multiple attacks that consume the same resource. So having multiple ways of attacking will help make sure you always have options in every fight. We chose Lunging Strike as our basic because the leap of this attack is very useful for getting around quickly during a fight. It also helps us activate the berserking effect more frequently thanks to the Combat Lunging Strike's passive. Upheaval is great for hitting many targets at once, as well as providing us with a ranged attack. It's easy to strike multiple enemies at once with its area of effect, which can help us activate the berserking buff thanks to Violent Upheaval. And with the right passives on the rest of the skill tree, you can also specialize your core skills into making enemies vulnerable when you hit them too. Because Upheaval can hit so many targets, the chance of making them all vulnerable at once will be very useful for our next attack. If other core attacks, like Hammer of the Ancients or Whirlwind, suit you better though, you could easily swap them out for Upheaval, and this build will still function. Deathblow is our 3rd attack, and it's one that you need to use thoughtfully. This is a strong attack whenever you use it, but it has a long cooldown. That is, unless you happen to kill your enemy with the strike, in which case the skill is instantly made available for you to use again. Because of Deathblow's utility as an attack that swaps out our weapons, you will want to have it available to you as frequently as possible, which means you need to be reliably killing with this attack to reset the cooldown. To help Deathblow deal as much damage as possible, try making enemies vulnerable with other abilities like your core attack, or brawling skills like charge or kick, and then striking them with Deathblow in order to deal increased damage. You now need to assign each attack to 1 weapon type from your 2-handed slashing, 2-handed bludgeoning, and dual-wielding choices. We recommend having your most powerful weapon assigned to Deathblow to help increase its strength, with your second most powerful weapon going to Upheaval, due to how many foes it can strike at once. Your basic attack should almost always use your weapons that are the least powerful, as the basic attack's main utility is to allow you to swap weapons, move around quickly, and generate fury. As for ultimate abilities, Iron Maelstrom is a no-brainer, as it directly works with our Walking Arsenal passive by using 3 weapon types all in a row. You can also invest in Supreme Iron Maelstrom, which helps to reduce the cooldown faster every time you swap your weapons. That leaves us with 2 spare slots, and you can swap these out as the situation depends, but as a general rule, you can have these set to 1 brawling skill and 1 defensive skill to keep yourself balanced. If you find you're losing a bit too much health, maybe add a second defensive skill, like Challenging Shout. You could also go all out with mobility skills if you're not feeling threatened and you want more options in your toolkit. We chose to have Kick as our brawling skill and Iron Skin for defense. Kick is great for stunning multiple enemies with the Mighty Kick perk, which stuns enemies that they get kicked into, and it also activates a guaranteed vulnerable effect on enemies that lasts for a long time. You can then use the space to deal with the remaining enemies around you. You could take advantage of the vulnerable effect and use Deathblow while it hits harder, or you can even make a break for it if you're in a tight spot. As for defense, Iron Skin generates a barrier to protect you against strong incoming attacks. The barrier is strongest when you use it with a small amount of health remaining, but don't try to optimize that too much, as you'll appreciate using it early and living, compared to waiting too long and dying before you get the chance to pop it. Our build has multiple Fortify bonuses from legendary aspects, so we chose the Strategic Iron Skill node to help boost our Fortify amount as well. That's it for our active skills, but we also chose certain passive skills to boost our effectiveness. There aren't many passive skills that work directly with weapon swapping, but Supreme Iron Maelstrom, which we mentioned just before, will speed up your ultimate cooldown every time you swap weapons, and right next to it you will find Furious Impulse, which generates fury with each weapon swap too. Deathblow skill specializations will either help you generate more fury or activate the berserking effect. If you find yourself low on fury often, set this to Fighter's Deathblow, and if not, the extra berserking effect from Warrior's Deathblow will be welcome. To increase the amount of time that enemies are vulnerable, we recommend putting at least 2 points into Pressure Point to increase the chance that your core skill makes enemies vulnerable. You can increase this chance further by investing in the Expose Vulnerability passive, which guarantees that your core skill will make enemies vulnerable after you deal damage with Deathblow. The more points into this skill that you have, the longer they will be vulnerable for. While we're in this area, make sure you grab the Slaying Strike and Pit Fighter bonuses. Slaying Strike increases your damage dealt against weak enemies, which is great for Deathblow's effectiveness, and Pit Fighter is excellent for increasing your overall damage. Maxing out Imposing Presence and Martial Vigor are a must if you want your Barbarian to survive taking multiple hits. If you have any spare points after this, we recommend putting more points into Pit Fighter, Slaying Strike, and Expose Vulnerability if you want to deal more damage, or into Thick Skin, Counter-Offensive, and Defensive Stance to increase your survivability with Fortify. In terms of legendary aspects, you have a lot of room to play here as your preferences allow, but here are some of the key effects to look out for. Bonuses that improve weapon mastery skills will be great for making Deathblow stronger and more reliable. Gaining an extra charge for your weapon mastery skills is a hugely reliable way to make sure that Deathblow has more opportunities to strike. You can also increase your Deathblow damage by 80 to 100% after you spend 100 Fury with the aspect of Encroaching Wrath. Weapon swapping bonuses are a must-have, such as this guaranteed Overpower effect that activates after swapping weapons 10 times, or this Fortify aspect that activates after swapping weapons 6 times. There is also the Battle Mad aspect, which activates Berserking after a number of weapon swaps, but you have to get lucky and find this aspect through a random drop. There are also Walking Arsenal bonuses that can increase your lucky hit chance or your Fury generation as well. As we have a number of ways to activate Berserking from our skill tree, various Berserking aspects can be very helpful, like gaining Fortify or increasing your Fury generation when you do damage while Berserking. One Berserking aspect to avoid though is the aspect of Burning Rage, which does fire damage in the nearby area while berserking. This could be great for a Whirlwind build, and it does heaps of damage, but actually this gets in the way as the flames finish off low health enemies that would be best kept alive for Deathblow. For survivability, this elite enemy barrier generation effect has protected us on many occasions as we start a fight, and making it so that activating Iron Skin also makes you unstoppable can help you get out of situations where you might otherwise be stuck. Lastly, as for the Weapon Expertise tab, because we're relying on Deathblow so heavily here, we can increase its damage against vulnerable enemies even more by using the two-handed axe technique to increase our damage and critical strike chance against vulnerable targets. Hopefully this build can help you utilize all of those weapons strapped to your back. Let us know if you try this build for yourself and if you made any changes to it along the way. For more on Diablo 4, check out our video review or our guide on how to find more crushed beast bones. For everything else gaming, keep it here on IGN.